The Department of Broadcasting of the Moody Bible Institute, in cooperation with Moody Press, presents Patricia M. St. John's Treasures of the Snow. And now the seventh and final part of Treasures of the Snow. The arrival of Monsieur Gervais, Lucian, and Eva was a very large event in the little village. Everyone had heard of Lucian's brave journey and Monsieur Gervais' visit to the Bernier household to see little Danny. They reached the chalet without any adventures or upsets, and Monsieur Bernier helped the doctor to alight, and then lifted poor Lucian in his strong arms and carried him up the steps into the front room, where he laid him on the couch. He also was pleased to see Lucian, for he had spent a weary, anxious night searching for him in the drifts. Grandmother, Annette, and Danny looked rather odd, as though they were about to have their photograph taken. They were all dressed in their very best, and when the doctor entered, they rose gravely to their feet. The doctor sat down on a chair and smiled at the group. He had a nice, broad smile. He then put his hand in his pocket, withdrew a caramel, and held it out.
Would you like a caramel, Danny?
Oh, yes.
Yes, monsieur.
Yes, monsieur.
Then come and get it.
Danny hopped delightedly across the room. While he hopped, the doctor watched him with the closest attention. When the child reached him, he lifted him onto his knee and put the caramel into his mouth.
Does your leg hurt you, Danny?
No.
No, monsieur.
No, monsieur. Only sometimes when I walk without my crutches. My crutches have got bears' heads on them. Would you like to see them?
Very much indeed.
And as Danny hopped over to fetch them, he again watched him with the closest attention.
I can do great big hops on my crutches. Would you like to see me do a hop?
Yes, please, I should.
But be careful with the chairs. Sometimes he forgets, monsieur.
Annette quickly got up and cleared away the chairs, and two kittens who had wandered in to see why so many people were there. The hop was a huge success, and the doctor clapped his hands.
Well done, well done. That was exactly like a kangaroo I once saw at the zoo. Now, put down your crutches and walk to me without them.
Danny limped toward him, smiling, but dragging his lame leg rather pitifully. Monsieur Gervais smiled back, lifted the little boy very gently onto his knee again, and gave him another caramel.
Annette, put the kettle on and make a pot of afternoon tea. And bring out the biscuit tin.
Yes, Grandmama.
While Annette was getting tea, Monsieur Gervais laid Danny flat on the table and twisted and turned his leg about for a very long time. In fact, when he had finished, the tea was ready, and Grandmother invited him to sit down and drink with him. He sat down and seemed lost in thought.
Well, monsieur, can you...
Can I do anything for him?
Yes, monsieur.
Please do not feel you must say something.
You have been very quiet, Monsieur Bernier.
I have nothing to say, but I'm feeling much.
Yes, I know. I know you are. Danny,
Yes, monsieur.
would you like to run like the other boys?
Oh, yes, monsieur.
Danny, where's that fine cat of yours gone? And her two kittens?
To the woodshed. That's where they live. They can only visit us here.
Could you bring them so that I can see them before I go?
May I, Grandmama?
Of course.
Danny quickly left, and as soon as the door had closed on Danny, Monsieur Gervais turned to Monsieur Bernier.
I think I may be able to help you, although I can't tell for certain until I've seen an X-ray of it. I think the bone was never properly set and has joined up wrongly, and that I could break it again and pull it out straight. But it would mean an operation and a long stay in the hospital. Are you willing to let him come?
Monsieur Bernier rubbed his hands together miserably and looked helplessly, first at Grandmother and then at Annette.
How much would it cost?
It wouldn't cost you anything.
I don't understand.
Lucian has paid for it himself.
Lucian?
I can't explain now or why he came by this money, but he has, and it's yours. Will you let Danny come?
Papa, please say yes.
I think it is God's will, Hans. So many miracles have happened thus far.
You have your answer, monsieur. It is unanimous. When does Danny leave?
Tomorrow morning. I shall be catching the early train, and I'll take Danny with me.
Where am I going in the train?
Danny had come in quietly through the back door, and no one had noticed him. Now he stood at Monsieur Gervais' elbow with his arms full of kittens, looking pleased. He had only once been in a train in his life, just for 10 minutes, but he had never forgotten it.
Danny, you're coming with me down to the lake, and you're going to be staying with me for a little. And I hope I'm going to make your leg better. Will you like that?
Oh, and Annette and Grandmama and Papa and Klaus and the kittens? Yes, monsieur. We shall like it very much.
Oh, no, Danny. We can't all come too. You've got to be good and go by yourself. Monsieur will look after you, and you'll soon come back.
The effect of these words was terrible. Danny flung himself, kittens and all, into Annette's arms and burst out crying. Never had the Bernays heard such a noise. Annette hugged and kissed him, grandmother shook and jostled him, but nothing helped. The family looked at each other helplessly.
I am so sorry, monsieur. Danny, stop that crying.
I won't go.
Danny, don't you want to be well?
No, I won't leave home. I won't.
Danny, stop this. Stop this at once. Stop.
That's all right, monsieur. Look, Danny. Stop the crying. You don't have to go alone.
No, you are lying.
That's enough, Danny. For shame.
Danny, listen for a moment. Now, how would you like it if Annette came along?
Could she?
Monsieur, does she know anything about looking after children?
Yes, monsieur. Her mother died when Danny was born. Annette looked after him until my mother came, and she has helped all these years.
Well, then, she should come with Danny. Now, would that be all right with you, Danny?
Yes.
Yes, monsieur.
Yes, monsieur. Yes, monsieur.
Oh, thank you, monsieur.
Now, one thing, Danny. When you come to my hospital, you will have to do what you are told without any fuss or screaming.
Oh, he will.
I'll see to it, monsieur.
I'm going to take Lucian home now, so I will say goodbye for the present. Now, the two children will meet me on the platform at 8:30 tomorrow morning with all that they need for the next 2 or 3 months.
Yes.
Annette shall help my wife in the morning and attend evening classes for her schooling. In the afternoon, she can be free to be with Danny.
Monsieur René shook Gervais' hand dumbly and wiped his brow. Events were moving so fast that he felt he had been left behind. But he was just beginning to understand that for 2 months, starting tomorrow, he had to live without Annette and Danny in a silent chalet. And that thought blotted out everything else. He went stumbling over to the cowshed to milk and try to think things out. Grandmother said goodbye at the door and held the doctor's hand for some moments in her own.
You are a good man, monsieur. God will reward you.
Monsieur Gervais looked at the valiant old woman in front of him, and his eyes suddenly became misty. He saw her with 2 happy, healthy grandchildren behind her, and the clean, peaceful home of which she was the guardian angel. He caught a glimpse of the love and courage that had strengthened her twisted hands and lightened her dim eyes to perform a labor far beyond her natural power, and of the simple selflessness that gave up the children without question because it was best for them to go. He knew that he was standing face to face with one of the saints of God.
Madame, you yourself are a good, unselfish woman, and will most certainly find your reward.
Monsieur Gervais lifted Lucian onto the sled and began the journey to the Morel chalet.
Lucian, you said nothing while we were at the Berniers.
There was nothing to say.
Even when they thanked you for what you'd done?
I don't know, monsieur. If I hadn't been the mean little boy I was, this would not have happened in the first place.
Lucian, hindsight is always better. But you can't think that way. Remember last night when you asked Jesus to come into your heart?
You know.
Yes, I saw your face. I knew. When you're older, Lucian, you begin to see things that others must be told. You were at peace after we prayed, and I knew. But now you must continue to remember that everything that happens in your life is for a purpose. A purpose that you may not understand for many years. But God's plans are perfect, no matter what happens.
I know that now. But I felt so badly for so long. You don't know. There was a time when Annette would not even speak to me. She hated me so much for what happened to Danny. Even though it was an accident, she could not forgive me. And then I could not forgive myself.
Well, she certainly was different today, huh?
It is because she let Jesus into her heart. When that happened, everything about her changed. We both felt badly about what happened to Danny, but the hate wasn't there.
Hate can't exist when Christ is living within a person.
I know that now. Monsieur,
Yes.
you really mean it when you say you think you can help Danny?
I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it, Lucian.
What if you take the x-ray and something else is wrong?
Well, we must trust God in these matters, Lucian. But I do know one thing.
What?
The Lord himself guided you through a storm that no person could have survived. That was a miracle. When we came into your village this morning, people were cheering you. You had done the impossible. You knew, and I knew, that God had done the impossible.
Oh, yes, monsieur. I knew that.
So, Lucian, if God guided you through the impossible, will he not guide me and Danny? He has brought us all together. Now, we may not see all the reasons, but we know it's for a purpose.
Yes. Every little thing that has happened. Oh, Monsieur Gervais, I just know Danny will walk again and run and be just like all the boys in the valley.
Indeed. Indeed. How far from your home are we now?
Oh, not too far. You can see the smoke coming from the chimney.
Ah, yes.
Monsieur,
Yes.
thank you for listening to me this morning.
Lucian, I listen to everyone. Who knows? There may be one who is an angel in disguise, huh? Ah, there, now, I see your home. How warm it looks. I will be home soon. Soon, Lucian. Soon.
The sled moved slowly to Lucian's home. The smoke from the chimney looked warm and comforting. Inside, Eva, who had gone ahead to be with her mother, Madame Morel, waited to welcome Lucian home. A wonderful end to a wondrous journey.
Monsieur Gervais, how can we ever thank you?
Ah, there's no need. You have a very brave boy here.
And a naughty one, going off like that and giving us all such dreadful fright. How could you do such thing? You deserve a spanking.
I'm sorry, Mama.
Oh, come, let me hug you. Oh, you naughty, wonderful boy. How I worried. Oh, how I worried.
Mama, Monsieur Gervais thinks he can help Danny's leg.
Is that true?
Well, we're certainly going to try.
Danny is going to the hospital where Monsieur Gervais helps lame people. Annette and Danny leave with the monsieur tomorrow morning.
How wonderful. Monsieur, can I get you some tea, coffee?
No, I'm fine.
Lucian, go up to your sister. She has been worried sick about you. Go to her room and let her know you're safe.
Yes, Mama. Good night, Monsieur.
Good night, Lucian. We'll see you tomorrow at the train, huh?
Yes, Monsieur. I'll be there.
Monsieur, you are a godsend. How that child has suffered since he caused Danny's accident.
I know. I heard. Madame, I believe that Lucian knows some old man around here.
Yes, I have never seen him.
Do you know where he lives? Could you point the way to his house?
Of course. But, monsieur,
Yes.
I should not go up there if I were you. The path will be bad after all this snow.
I have business with him.
Oh, excuse me then. Of course. Let me get my shawl and I will walk part the way with you.
Monsieur Gervais thought he had never seen the forest more beautiful as he toiled up the track that late afternoon. The trees were bowed down and the cones frosted and starred. What must it be like, thought Monsieur Gervais, to be this old man and live alone among all the silence and peace? He began to look forward to meeting him and found his heart was beating faster than usual. As he left the forest, he could see the hut standing halfway up the meadow with the snow piled high against its walls. The old man had dug a little path as far as the trees, almost as though he were expecting a visitor. Monsieur Gervais knocked softly on the door and entered without waiting for a reply. The old man sat hunched up over his stove, whittling wood. The goat and the cat sat on each side of him for company, and Monsieur Gervais took the chair to the other side of the stove.
Well, did you get there safely, Lucian?
It's not Lucian.
The old man jumped and looked up. And then they sat staring at each other as though they had each seen a ghost, and yet uncertainly as though the ghost might possibly be real after all.
I have come to give you back this money. I don't want money to help that child. In the circumstance, I will do it free, if it can be done.
Then the boy broke his promise.
No, he did not break his promise. He told me nothing but that it was given him by an old man, and that it was the payment of a debt. But I do not accept large sums of money from peasant boys without making sure that they come by it honestly. I had no difficulty in finding out from other people who you were and where you lived.
There was another long, long silence.
Is that all you came to say?
The old man's voice sounded suddenly weary and hopeless. Monsieur Gervais got up quickly and knelt down beside the old man.
Need we pretend anymore? Certainly we are both sure of each other. I've come to take you home, Father, and to tell you how much we missed you and wanted you.
Home. Oh, thank you, God. Home.
Father. Oh, my Father.
later, Annette, muffled in a woolly hood and cloak, sat in a big wooden rocking chair, smiling at Lucian, who was sitting up in bed with his chin resting on his knees. He was rather pale and tired, but otherwise well and happy.
Tell me all about it. Everyone says it was terribly brave of you. Tell me right from the beginning, Lucian, and what it was like on the top.
Lucian wrinkled his forehead. It was nice to be called brave, and he would have liked to make a good story of it, but somehow it all seemed very far away and difficult to talk about, almost as though it had been a dream. He did not realize that his body had been too cold and weary to let his mind notice anything much.
Well, I went up to the old man first and asked him for some money.
I didn't know the old man had money.
It's a very long story, and he asked me not to say anything.
Of course.
Anyway, he gave me the money, and then I got my skis on the way down and skied down to the valley and climbed through the woods across the river. And then when I got to the top, it was very windy, and then I went down the other side.
Of course you did, or you'd never have got there. But tell me about it properly, Lucian. What did you feel like? Did you have any adventures? Were you frightened? And did you nearly die? And what was it like at the top?
Lucian was silent for a few moments. All the afternoon, he had been wondering whether there would be a chance to tell Annette. But now the chance was here. He didn't know how to begin.
There's really nothing to tell.
Oh, silly, of course there is.
I was afraid, Annette. I nearly came back.
We would have understood. But you didn't, Lucian. You kept on going.
That's because of you.
Of me?
Yes.
I don't understand.
Remember how you told me about the verse in the Bible that helped you tell Schoolmaster Hassel what you'd done to my horse?
Perfect love casteth out all fear. Yes, I remember.
Well, I remembered that verse. And when I did, well, I stopped feeling so terribly afraid almost at once.
Did you really?
Yes. And when I made it to the town, that very day I opened my heart to Jesus. Monsieur Gervais was praying with me when I did. And now, it seems there isn't any room to be frightened of anything. Because Jesus' love is inside me.
Oh, that's wonderful, Lucian. Your being afraid had to go away, just like my hating had to go away. I suppose it's all really the same, Lucian. Whether you're afraid or don't like people, or whether you cheat or don't speak the truth. Whatever's the matter with you, when Jesus comes in, I suppose there just isn't room for it anymore.
I suppose you could put any word on the end of that verse. Fear, or being selfish, or telling lies, or being lazy or cross, and say that perfect love casts out any of them. And when Jesus comes in, perfect love comes in too. What do you think, Annette?
Oh, I think you're right.
Annette,
Yes?
I think it is time for you to go. Your father wanted you home early so you could pack.
Oh, that's right. You're leaving tomorrow.
You'll be at the station, won't you?
I thought I would be, but Monsieur Gervais came back a little while ago, and he said it would be better if I stayed in bed. I guess I'm more tired than we both thought.
So, you can say your goodbyes now.
I'm sorry you won't be at the train.
Me too.
Lucian,
What?
I'd like you to have this.
A ring?
It belonged to my mother.
But I cannot take this.
I want you to. You risk your life for Danny, and because of you, he'll be made well again.
Because of me, Annette.
Don't say it. Remember, both of us are Christians now. All is forgiven. Old things are passed away. Everything has become new.
But I have nothing to give you.
Oh, I have your friendship, and that is more than enough. Oh, Lucian, I'm going to miss you.
And I'll miss you.
Oh, come, come. Annette and Danny will be home before the snows melt, and you'll all be together again.
I'll write you.
And I'll write you. I will whittle you a doll's house while you're gone. Would you like that?
Oh, yes, I would. I've never had a doll's house.
Then that's what I'll do.
I've got to go now.
Annette, the ring is beautiful.
Goodbye, Lucian.
Goodbye. God bless you.
Annette quickly left the house. It was not until Annette was walking home across the starlit snow with the great arms of the mountain about her that she fully realized that this was her last evening at home for a long time. As the realization came, she found she had a sudden pain in her throat and her eyes were misty. She broke into a fast run and arrived almost breathless in the warmth of the front room. Annette burst into tears and ran straight into the old woman's arms. Grandmother let her cry for a time, and then she drew up the stool, and Annette sat down and leaned against grandmother's knees while grandmother talked.
Oh, Grandmama, I don't think I want to go.
Not go. Oh, Annette, remember why you are going. Tell me.
What?
Tell me why you are going.
I know why I'm going.
Well, then tell me.
To be with Danny.
And what is happening to Danny?
He's going to be made well again.
And isn't that reason enough to quiet whatever fears and loneliness are starting to grow inside you?
Yes, Grandmama.
Get me my Bible, child.
All right, Grandmama.
I want to read... No. You read the 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians. It is a chapter I should like you to remember all the time you're away. But instead of the word charity, use the word love. They mean the same thing, but you will understand better.
So Annette read the whole chapter, and when she had finished, grandmother said,
The verse I want you to take away with you and remember is verse 4. Read it again, Annette.
All right, Grandmama. Love suffereth long and is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up.
Now, Annette, you tell me that you have asked the Savior into your heart, and he has come in and brought his love with him, the kind of love we were reading about.
I have, Grandmama.
But then always remember that. You're going to look after little children, and you're a child yourself.
Not that much of a child.
Ah, but still a child. Now, these little children won't always be good with you. Often you will feel cross and impatient and bad-tempered. But the love of Jesus is long-suffering and kind. Ask him to meet those cross, bad-tempered thoughts with his love. And you'll find they will leave.
I will, Grandmama.
Then you are going to a big house, and you will see fine things that you will never possess. Sometimes you may feel discontented and jealous. But remember, the love of Jesus in your heart is never envious. And if your heart is full of his love, there won't be room for discontent.
Oh, Grandmama, I will. I promise.
You're going to be a servant in a house of children. I don't suppose you will always get much notice taken of you. Often you will want your work to be seen and praised and made a fuss over. But remember, the love of Jesus in you never pushes itself forward and never wants to be noticed. And his love can make you go on doing your work quietly and faithfully, whether anyone notices you or not. Remember, Jesus is your master, and you are working to please him.
Yes, Grandmama.
Keep your heart full of the love of Jesus. Read about it and think about it. And when wrong thoughts knock at the door, don't try to keep them out yourself. Ask the Savior to open the door for you and tell them there is no room for them in a heart that is full of his love. And they will go away.
Like the dark, when you let the light in, huh?
Papa, we didn't hear you come in.
You were much too busy talking with each other.
You mean listening to me talk?
What you were saying was very worthwhile. Annette, don't you think it's time to start packing?
Oh, yes, Papa.
Do you need my help?
No, Grandmama. I'm quite grown up.
You are indeed.
After you finish, come down and we'll have hot chocolate before bed.
All right, Papa. I'll hurry.
Such a beautiful child.
Yes.
You certainly calmed her.
Did I, Hans?
Oh, you know you did. Just like you would calm me when I was a boy. Do you remember the evening you had me read 1 Corinthians 13? It was the day I had gotten into a fight with a neighboring boy who had stolen our cow.
Yes, I remember.
Mother, I'm so glad you are still a part of my life. If it weren't for you, I don't know how Annette, Danny, and I would...
I thought you were going to make hot chocolate.
Mother, are you all right?
Of course I am.
Then why are there tears in your eyes?
Oh, Hans, I'm not very brave. All the time Annette was reading, part of me was thinking, what shall I do tomorrow night? And all the nights after, when the stool at my feet is empty. When I won't hear Annette calling Danny for supper. Or just before retiring, seeing a little boy tucked into his bed, having sneaked in one of the kittens. Oh, Hans, I will miss them. I will.
And I. But Danny will be whole again. And for that, I'd give a lifetime.
The hour when the valley was gray and the peaks are silver, the whole family drove to the station in the mule cart and arrived half an hour too early because they were so afraid of missing the train. Soon Monsieur Gervais joined them, and they all waited silently for the train to arrive. Danny, in his cloak and hood, seemed very shy and kept edging off behind milk cans on the platform. He looked anxious and seemed unwilling to be hugged when it came to saying goodbye, but the train was already far down the valley before Annette understood why. Then she noticed strange movements under the cloak, as though Danny were having hiccups.
What is that under your cloak, Danny? Oh, Danny, how could you?
It's only one, Annette.
One what, Danny?
Dear.
Oh, that one, eh?
Danny, you're a very naughty boy. You know Grandmama said you couldn't have kittens in the hospital. Oh, I'm so sorry, Monsieur.
No, don't worry. Danny isn't. Are you, Danny?
No, Monsieur.
He couldn't think of a single excuse for his naughtiness, but under his cloak he gave the white kitten a secret squeeze, and the white kitten curled his arm against Danny's and purred like a little steam engine. Neither of them felt the least bit sorry for what he had done. Straight to the hospital when they reached the town. He was taken to a large room full of lame children like himself. There was a rather weary-looking nurse in charge. He took one long look at them and decided they all needed cheering up. So he offered to do kangaroo hops on his bear crutches all down the ward. It was a great success, and within an hour, Danny was fast friends with everybody. The white kitten was given a basket in the kitchen and was to be allowed in during visiting hours.
Well, I see you are all settled, eh?
It's so much fun here. Will the clown come back tomorrow?
The clown visits almost every day. But as he said, your crutches were more entertaining than he was.
He was wonderful, wasn't he, Annette?
Oh, he was.
Well, Annette and I must be going now. My wife expected us over an hour ago.
When will I see Annette again?
You'll see Annette every day.
Now remember, you must do everything the nurses and Monsieur Gervais tell. And you mustn't scream or be bad-tempered.
I promise.
Now, we'll see you again tomorrow, young man.
What happens tomorrow?
You'll be having x-rays taken.
What's an x-ray?
That's when we take a picture of the inside of your foot.
The inside?
So Monsieur Gervais can see how the bone mended itself.
It mended wrong. We know that.
Yes, but now I must find out how we can mend it correctly.
Will I see the picture?
Of course. Now, rest. They'll be serving you dinner soon.
Remember to say grace before you eat.
Oh, I will. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Danny.
See you tomorrow. And remember, do everything that...
I will.
In the hospital a week before he had his operation. He went off to the operating room in an interested and rather excited frame of mind and went fearlessly to sleep. But when he woke up hours later, he was very upset to find that his bed had been tipped up and there were large iron weights on the end of his leg which hurt very much. He felt sick and hot and screamed for Annette. When the nurse came, he reached out to slap her for not being Annette.
He slapped the nurse? Oh, dear.
No, I'm sure he didn't mean it. But I've arranged for you to spend the next few days with him in the hospital.
But what about your wife and the children?
They can manage without you for the next few days. Danny needs you more. Now, it's very painful when a bone has been mended for so long and then must be broken again. You'll need it more at the hospital.
Of course.
And so Annette went to be with Danny. All that week, Danny lay on his back, with the weights hanging on his legs, feeling feverish and miserable. On those long days, Annette sat quietly beside him. She was of real comfort to Danny, and so was someone else. On the wall, opposite Danny's bed, was a picture with some writing under it that Danny couldn't read. It was a picture of the Lord Jesus, sitting in a field of flowers, and the children of the world standing around him, looking up into his face. On the grass, at his feet, sat a black boy, and on his knee was an Indian child. His arms were thrown around a little girl in a blue dress, and the children of China and the South Seas were nestling up to him. One day, Danny was particularly tired. He wanted to go to sleep so badly, but the pain in his leg kept him awake. So he rolled his head around to look at the picture with the writing underneath.
What does it say, Annette?
It says, "Suffer the little children to come unto me."
I know that story. Grandmama told it to me. Are those the children in the Bible? Haven't they got funny clothes?
Yes, but they aren't the children in the Bible. They are other children from all over the world. Indians and Africans, and the girl is Swiss.
Why?
Well, I suppose to show that all children can come to Jesus, not just the ones in the Bible.
Like we did, huh, Annette?
Yes. Oh, Danny.
I'm sorry, Annette. It hurt so much. It hurts.
Shh, Danny, shh. It's getting better. All that pain is making it better.
And as Annette soothed Danny, he fell into a deep sleep. He dreamed that he saw the picture again. The Indian child was gone, and sitting in her place, looking up into the face of Jesus, sat a thin, brown-faced little boy with rumpled, sun-bleached hair, and on the grass at his feet lay a pair of crutches with bears' heads carved on them. Several things happened while Danny lay sleeping. Annette left him to do some errands. Monsieur Gervais came and lifted one of the weights off his leg. Secondly, his fever had left him. Thirdly, a warm south wind came breathing over the land, scattering the clouds and clearing the sky. When he woke up, his leg had stopped hurting. The big glass doors of the ward had been flung open, and through them, Danny could see for the first time blue water, misty blue mountains, and he knew he was getting well. The door opened and Annette clattered up the hospital ward, warm and rosy from the wind.
Oh, isn't it a lovely day, Danny? Look at the lake and the mountains on the other side, and the little ships.
Ned, where are my bear crutches?
Here, Danny, behind your locker. Why?
Well, you know that poor little boy in the corner? He might like them. Give them to him.
But why, Danny? You like them so much yourself.
I know, but I won't want them ever anymore. I'm gonna get better and run about in ordinary boots.
Oh, Danny, Danny.
Just as the weeks passed in the valley, so the weeks passed in the mountains. And as happy as Danny was getting well, Lucian had a growing sadness. His friend, the old woodcarver, was to leave the mountain and go to the lake to live with his son, Monsieur Gervais. It had all been arranged that afternoon when father and son first recognized each other. He was to leave at the beginning of March, and the day before his departure, Lucian climbed up through the forest to help him pack.
I shall often come back, Lucian. I couldn't leave the mountain for long. I'll stop down there for a while, but then I shall hear the mountains calling me, and back I'll come for a bit of a holiday. I'm taking a few of my figures for the children. They may like them, and one, Lucian, I kept for you.
I'd love to have one. It will remind me of you. And besides, I might be able to copy it.
The old man went to the cupboard and drew out the gift he had set aside for Lucian. He put it in the boy's hands and watched him closely. It looked simple enough at first sight. It was a wooden cross made of 2 pieces of rough wood, but the crossbeam was bound to the upright post by exquisitely carved ropes twisted in knots, a filigree work of fine wood. Lucian's fingers touched the perfect work reverently, and he lifted shining eyes to his old master.
It's beautiful. I cannot think how you carved those ropes out of wood without breaking the wood. It's the cross like the one on which Jesus was crucified, isn't it?
Yes. I carved it the night my friend and master died. The night he spoke to me about the love and mercy of God, and the night I believed I could be forgiven. Once you and I had a talk about loving. The cross is the place where we see love made perfect.
Oh, I know about that. It was perfect love that helped me across the pass. Monsieur, it was your son who heard me when I asked Jesus to come into my heart.
Is that so?
Oh, yes. I know about perfect love. Perfect love casteth out fear.
Yes, and perfect love means love that goes on doing until there isn't anything more to be done, and that goes on suffering till it can't suffer anymore. That's why when Jesus hung on the cross, he said, "It is finished." There wasn't any sin left that could not be forgiven, not one sinner who couldn't be saved, because he had died. He had loved perfectly.
The old man seemed to have forgotten Lucian and to be talking to himself. Lucian was listening all the same. He said goodbye to the old man and promised to come up early next morning and carry his pack to the station on his way to school.
When flowers begin to come out, I shall come back. You write and tell me when they're out in the valley, and that will give me plenty of time to get back before they bloom on the mountain. Do not forget, Lucian.
It was not very long after this that Lucian collected a letter for grandmother from the straight up the hill to give it to her because he knew it was from Annette. He read it to her since her weary eyes could no longer see the written page.
Dear Father and Grandmother, Danny and I are coming home the day after tomorrow. Danny is quite well again. We are longing to see you. And Danny says, please bring Klaus to the station. Your loving Annette.
The next day dawned clear and beautiful. There was no school. Lucian was up at daybreak picking flowers and mountain laurel. He arranged them in a bowl on the veranda table at the Berniers' home, and then set out for the station, walking slowly because there was plenty of time. He reached the station rather nervous and stood apart with his hands in his pocket because he suddenly felt a little afraid of meeting them and wished he hadn't come. Many people were there so that the tiny platform was quite crowded. Suddenly, Monsieur Benet shouted, "It's coming!" and everyone cheered. And now it had come, and Annette and Danny were at the window, rosy with excitement and clamoring to be out. Danny gave one glance at the group of beloved faces all pressed so close to welcome him, and in that glance he noticed Lucian standing apart, and he tumbled out of the train, broke through the crowd, and ran straight to Lucian.
Look, Lucian, I can walk. Your doctor you found made me better, and I can run just as though I never fell into the stream. Oh, thank you, Lucian. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucian. Oh, it's so good to see you.
I feel the same way. Oh, Annette, Danny, I am so happy.
And while the others crowded around to welcome Annette and Danny home, Lucian turned away because there were tears in his eyes. He had been honored above everybody. His sin was forgiven and forgotten forever. Danny could walk, just as though he had never fallen. As Lucian turned, he noticed that the almond tree on the platform had burst into flower at the top. Yesterday there was nothing but its bare branches, but spring had proved too strong for it, and straight from the bare wood had come the starry pink blossoms. The winter was over and gone. The flowers had come to the earth, and the birds had begun their singing. Perfect love, the perfect love of Jesus, thought Lucian. And he happily joined the Berniers as they traveled joyously up the mountain.
You have been listening to the seventh and final part of Patricia M. St. John's Treasures of the Snow, published by Moody Press. Amy Schmid was heard in the role of Annette. Kim Rasmussen was Lucian, and Vi Berwick was Marie. Florence Schmid was heard as Danny. Larry Moran was Monsieur Bernier, and Alan Keyes, the old man. Others in the cast included Rex Brenner, Mary Staver, Edie Fisher, Tony Lincoln, and Don Stewart. Sound and musical selection by John McComb. Treasures of the Snow was directed by Mike Kellogg and is a production of the Department of Broadcasting of the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago.